And hey there, it's me, Mudlink. Welcome to the bonus episode of the Greatest Attorney Chronicles. So last time we finished up the 5th case, and it was so fucking good. I love that case so goddamn much. Anyway, I'm going to be doing something I never actually did, which is do the Randst Magazine cases. Similar to how the Asinine, I think, at least from what I've seen, a little I've seen of it, it's similar to the Asinine attorney cases that that Spirit of Justice and that Spirit of Justice has. Although I don't know exactly, I don't know if it's exactly like the same. We'll have to see. So anyway, everything's fixed now with the glitchy backgrounds and all that. Hang on a second. Alright, so there are 8, and I looked at Slizer's playlist for this stuff, and I calculated all the times. Supposedly, I'm going to be doing this for about 2 hours. But hey, you know what? It's a bonus episode. I'll make it long. Who cares? It's the last episode of this series now. Anyway, so there's 8 episodes in the Randst Magazine. So, funnily enough, you switch around the words there. It's actually going to be the Strand Magazine, which is where the Sherlock Holmes books are actually written. At least, yeah. Yeah, I'm not stupid, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's where the short stories were first published for Sherlock Holmes. Anyway. Even though it's gonna say Sholmes for stuff. So yeah, spoilers for the first game story. So I waited until the end for this, but only for the first game, because this series of episodes here, they only were made in the Greatest Attorney adventures. The second game did have something, but it never got translated in this for some reason. I'll tell you guys about it once we make it to the second game. Anyway, let's see episode 1. In the defendant's antechamber. 22nd of November, 3:08 p.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, defendant's antechamber 5. Just look at my priceless treasure now. Myself I have scrubbed and scrubbed, but the repellent odor of meat will never be repelled from its resplendent surface again. You have it back in your possession, at least. You should be grateful, old man. How dare you? Excuse me, but I'd just like to get at that Zabuton cushion there, if I could. Rest assured, you miserable military malefactor, this is not over. Incarceration awaits those who would defraud a senior citizen for his priceless treasures. Watch your tongue, old man. Mark my words, I won't. Sorry, Sergeant, but could I just get at the Zabuton cushion there as well? Oh. I won't go to jail. Never. Imagine if I did. Very next day, my boy would starve without the chain of command and place to provide for him. Using a child to protect yourself. Myself, I call that abstinent cowardice. Abstinent cowardice? Oh, really? And who just employed the old poor defenseless senior citizen in tactic, The only way to fight an enemy who's using underhanded tactics is with a tit-for-tat strategy. Sorry to interrupt again, but I just need to get at that Western-style cushion there on the sofa. Enough of this insubordination. What do you want, man? Oh, please don't mind me. Aha! Do my eyes deceive me? Or is this the wide-eyed criminal from the trial before? Wide-eyed perhaps, but criminal, no. Or is this unhealthy fascination you exhibit with the seating arrangements of others? Why were you peering under the cushion of this upholstered seat? Oh well, thing is... Any luck, did you find it? No, sadly not. I don't think it's here, Cosma. You really are a liability, Ryunosuke. Report! At once! Have you lost something, is that it? Yes, we were just on our way to a party to celebrate my friend's victory here when... I realized that my university pin badge was missing. Here's a university pin badge, you say? Yes, from my collar here, you see? Affirmative. Uniforms must be kept in prime condition at all times. Missing badge is unacceptable. Yeah, my voice is fluctuating with this guy, because I don't give a shit about this guy. But if I look around, it would probably turn up somewhere. Like the tale of the old Kobon coin steak. Parable of which I'm acutely aware. But I've exhausted my search now, really. The only logical conclusion is that someone must have stolen it. Don't look at me! I just don't find any old metal objects irresistible, you know! Imagine what would happen if little Trooper Ido here swallowed something like that. I'm afraid we'll have to give up, Ryunosuke. Still, if you tell the office your student number, they should be able to issue you with a new one. What's the matter? Don't tell me. Yes, I don't remember my student number. I don't believe it. I mean, this is the second time you've lost your badge, isn't it? Third, actually. If you didn't think you could remember it, you should have made a note of it somewhere. I told you that until I was blue in the face the last time this happened. Oh yes, I do seem to remember someone telling me something along those lines. It was you, was it? You can't even remember who told you that you needed to remember it. Well, student numbers are 6 digits, Cosma. Who'd remember 6 whole digits? Yuma isn't exactly a long-established university, you know. All of our numbers are still rather low. In fact, they only use the last 3 digits. Well, that might help, I suppose. That might help. Ryunosuke, it's only 3 digits you need to remember. Just 3. Sorry, my brain is such a disappointment. Yes, well, anyway, young man, myself, I was greatly impressed with you in the courtroom today. Oh? You mean me? Loyal already, before you even graduated. As such a loyal friend to this one. This one? What's that supposed to mean? Oh no, I still have much to learn. In fact, that was brought home to me in no uncertain terms only last year. My Achilles heel was spectacularly exposed by my best friend here. Indeed. What, by me? This is the first I've heard about it. Yes, by Ryunosuke Naruhodo. You can't have forgotten, surely. It was last summer, at the speech contest. Speech contest? Oh, that. Contestants had to take to the stage and deliver a public address on any subject they chose. We were competing to give the most compelling and powerful speech. Yours was great and made a huge impression on the audience. Obviously, since I was a budding student of law, I was determined to win. And sure enough, one by one, my opposition fell. When I reached the final at last, I came up against you. Yes, so you did. Not being rude, but when I first laid eyes on you, I thought to myself, this cheeky, wide-eyed no-hoper is out of his depth. He's going to be a pushover. That's your version of not being rude, is it? Well, I paid for my complacency, because it brought on that humiliating defeat. Defeat? How are your ranks compromised? My speech was going very well. I had the audience in the palm of my hand. They hung on my every word. And then, when I came to the very last line... Yes, what happened at the very last line? It was supposed to be climactic. It was supposed to be a climactic end. Unfortunately, I completely fouled it up. Never. You mean you stumbled on your words? Spectacularly. Even now, I can't believe I ruined it. Well, what on earth did you say, man? Ryunosuke, you'd better say it. I still can't get my tongue around it. Sure, of course. I can still recall it perfectly. What you said at the end of your speech, or rather, what you intended to say at the end of your speech, was this. So arise, ladies and gentlemen, and applaud our forefathers' plight in the fight of filial piety. What went wrong? What indeed? Myself, I see no problem with the pronunciation of these paltry words. In that case, old man, I invite you to say it yourself. Very well then, I shall. Ahem. So arise, ladies and gentlemen, and applaud our forefathers' plight and the fight for filial piety. It's impossible! You arise, ladies and gentlemen part I delivered perfectly. but the next part had me floundering for a whole 5 minutes. Yeah, you can tell I had a hard time saying it a little bit too. By the end of it, I was on my knees in front of the podium, a blabbering mess. And that's when the audience started to heckle you. Arise, arise, they were shouting. Hell on earth. But then, of course, this man went and delivered his word-perfect speech with a perfect ending. How did it go again? Let me see. So, my dear fellows, the message is simple. Treat your father and mother with respect. Something like that. I mean, talk about stating the obvious. The fact is, I lost to that speech. Tongue-tied is the only way to describe it. Well, it is quite tricky to say, I agree. That final fight for filial piety especially. Ever since that day, I've had this question whirling around in my head. Why did our forefathers choose such an awkward phrase? Was it to mock their children? I mean, it should have never been called filial piety in the first place. Ah! At least you're going to Great Britain soon. It might not come up that much there. It might not come up much there. Well, anyway, having lost that accursed contest, I came after you to ask you a question. How is it that you never trip up on your words? I inquired, and you gave me just a broad smile and said, "Speaking fast is my hobby." I mean, really, what kind of hobby is that? Do you think you could take your hand off your sword? Besides, it's just a way to pass the time. After that, you started talking at me at 10 to the dozen, like you were possessed almost. Honestly, you can't imagine the shock I suffered that day. You really can't. You're right, I really can't. Speaking fast is just the sort of hobby I'd expect a civilian like you to waste his time on. You have to practice, of course, but there are some simple things to start with. Like this famous one, for example. Swift samurai sword swipes silently sideways. I almost fucked it up there. Oh yes, even a decrepit tongue and an ailing frame such as mine can find its way around that one. I've no doubt, it's just a bit fun, really. Can't imagine anyone would struggle to say it. Isn't that right, Cosma? Swift samurai sword. Ah! Blubbering mess by word 2. Not just a samurai. Every good soldier needs to be able to handle a sword. That's why I've been busy teaching Idle the finer points of swordplay. None of this wordplay nonsense, Private. Come to think of it, not long after that, we started to attend lectures together, didn't we? We got into that debate about family values at the sukiyaki place on campus, do you remember? Yes, your argument was full of jokes and puns, and wordplay as usual. I remember it well. Oh, was it? In any case, I swore that I would never let myself forget the shock you gave me back then. And as a symbol of how seriously I took that oath, I decided to wear this. My red Hachimaki headband. That's the fucking reason he's wearing it? Sorry, Cosma. Yes? You've lost me there. I'm afraid I don't see the link. What does your red headband have to do with your oath? Hang on, just checking. 3, 4... Because it will always remind me of that smug look on your face as you utter those tantalizing words. What words? You mean another tongue twister? I practiced and practiced until my tongue bled. But in the end, I mastered it. Mastered what? Well, I think it's time you heard this, actually. Listen carefully now. Here goes. Red headband, lead headband, dead headband. There. Word perfect, see? What the fuck? I'd actually been meaning to ask you about that. About the story behind your headband, I mean. Well, now you know. So that I'll never forget the shock and humiliation of that day. That's why I wear this red headband every single day without fail. Hang on. Alright, I'm back. Well, I don't know exactly how much of a shock you think you had back then, but it can't be more than the shock you've just given me now. What do you mean? Well, I'm sorry to have to tell you, but the tongue twister I said didn't go the way you seem to have remembered it. Huh? Just as famous as Swift Samurai Sword, so I can't believe you don't know it really. It goes red bread pan, lead bread pan, dead bread man. Wait, what? Red pan. Ugh! Seems I've knocked some wind out of the headband of yours. It's not too late, Private. You could always start wearing red bread pan on your head instead. Your youthful vigor is manifest, young man. Your cheeks are glowing redder than your Hachimaki. Why do so many words have to be so similar? So looking forward to Great Britain then. We have to deliver speeches in court in English. I suppose you can always shell seashells on the seashore. She-shore. I said it right even though he said it fucking... What the fuck was that? Asogi, what the fuck? Bruh. That's fucking hilarious. Also, any references that are going to be made I'm going to talk about. There's only in 3, 4, 5, and 6 there are references. I guess technically 7 too, but that's for something. Anyway, let's do this. First class cabin. Be part of case 2. Well, at least before it starts. 6th of January, 6:23 p.m. SS Buria, first class cabin number 1. Hang on. It's almost 2 weeks now since we left Japan. Can't believe how quickly time has gone. So, our next port of call will be Shanghai. Who's there? Who could it be at this hour? A detective. Detective who? A great detective. I don't get it. What's a great detective? If you would just be so kind as to open the door. Oh yes, sorry, of course. Something wrong, detective. Are you investigating a case? Wherever a great detective goes, great cases occur. Indeed, I am the root of all evil. Hang on a fucking second. Of course, sit down and record. Phone call. Sorry? Then I don't think I want you in my cabin. Under our very noses, on the steamship, a terrible theft has just occurred. What? You noticed, I presume, the brief power failure a short while ago. Oh yes, the power couldn't have been out for more than 10 minutes, though. Indeed. Yet there was ample time for this wicked crime to be perpetrated. See, well, clearly it's a case that needs investigating. Precisely. The culprit ran away in this direction. Down the first-class cabin passageway here. Really? The thief came this way? I'm quite sure of it. He may have escaped the attention of the dim-witted crew, but not of the great detective. To that end, I would be obliged if you would allow me to investigate here in this cabin. Well... How curious. Is there some reason why it would inconvenience you to have your cabin searched? Inconvenience me? Well, I'd be lying if I said no. After all, there's a stowaway in that wardrobe right over there. It's just me in here, and you see, no one else. So you might perhaps want to focus your attention on one of the other first-class cabins. As it happens, you are the only first-class passenger present. The other cabins are vacant. Oh. Did that rather tragic rumbling of the stomach arise from within you, my good fellow? Of course. As I said, I'm the only person in here. Oh, fucking... Sorry, back again. A lot of interruptions now. Whatever. So long until dinner now, so perhaps we could do this afterwards. I do apologize, sir, but it is of the utmost I do apologize, sir, but it is of the first importance that the investigation is not delayed. Now, if you'll excuse me. Wait, where'd he go? How did he suddenly move all the way over there? Yes, without a doubt. If the culprit were to be hiding in this cabin, it would have to be inside this wardrobe. I shall need to examine this wardrobe thoroughly. I presume you have no objection? I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to decline. Really, you won't find any... Achoo! Achoo! Do those two rather tragic sneezes arise from your good self? Of course they did. As I said, I'm the only person in here. You have a curious knack of talking while sneezing, then. Twice, no less. This is going to be a tough one to argue. I was watching you quite intently, sir, and I assure you, I saw no signs of a sneeze. Couldn't Renosuke have held his nose? As I was saying, I shall need to examine this wardrobe. We've had it now then. The game's up. Nobody hiding in there, it seems. What? You seem surprised. No, not at all. Yes, I am. He was in there for sure. I shut the doors on him myself. More visitors? Well, who's this now? Excusing me. Oh, Seaman Stroganoff. Sorry for disturbing, but crime has been committed on board ship. Yes, I heard. A terrible theft, apparently. How do you know this? Oh, well. A detective here just informed me, you see. Detective? Yes, I assume you must have asked him to investigate. Detective, could you? Where'd he go? I must ask you to cooperate with investigation into this crime, fully. Uh-oh, he's clearing out the wardrobe already. Ah! Ah! Well done, you found me. What are you doing hiding in my wardrobe? My good man, I was merely assessing the practicality of concealment in such a place. And I would say that, at a push, a human could survive for up to 5 minutes in that cramped space. Renosuke's been in there for a fortnight. Is he not human? Who are you? Shh. This is a moment of truth. The great detective is about to unveil the sordid details of this wretched crime. You mean to say? Yes. Yes, there can be no doubt that the culprit of this terrible theft did indeed conceal himself within this wardrobe. What? But that's impossible. He couldn't have done. My best friend was in there the entire time. Or at least, thought he was. How can you be sure of this? Elementary, my dear fellow. The criminal left behind the most revealing evidence. How else could you explain these 3 bones? Ugh. What the? That's right, look at those gnawed bones in there. 3 of them. Ugh. The criminal has escaped this time, but I will find him and crush him. Could I ask you something, detective? Oh yes, of course. I'm most delighted to answer an inquiring mind. This terrible theft. Where exactly was stolen? Aha, what else? Put some steaks on the rib bone. Huh? Did you say steaks on the rib bone? Well, this evening's dinner. 3 rib steaks were stolen from the ship's kitchen only a short time ago. There was malfunction with generator and ship was without lights for 10 minutes. Chef who saw the criminal said that he ran away down first-class passageway. Well, now I'm on his tail. I'm afraid to say, dear fellow, that your man is no longer in this cabin. But how? Through the cabin door, no less. Having devoured his haul in this wardrobe, the culprit discarded the bones and concealed himself behind the cabin door as he came inside. Then, when attention was turned to the wardrobe, he seized his chance to escape through the open door. What? Make haste, my good man, after the culprit. I shall follow presently. Something troubles you, sir? I think maybe criminal's not running away at all. What are you suggesting? Now I know where the dog is buried. Mr. Asogi. Me? Da! When I think that you are culprit, everything is falling in places. The criminal that disappeared in first-class passageway, the bones in the wardrobe. All clues are pointing their fingers at you. Don't be ridiculous. I would never. I would never. Yes, yes, of course. I established at once that you couldn't be the perpetrator of this crime. You did? Why? How are you so sure? My dear fellow, there are but two things in this world on which one can rely with total certainty. What two things? The first is the word of a great detective, and the second... The second is the tragic rumbling of an empty belly. Ah, not again. When I first entered this cabin, there did arise from this gentleman a belly rumbling so odiously tragic that it confirmed beyond all doubt that the man had not eaten a single rib steak in some time, let alone 3. Why do I have to suffer this humiliation when I've done nothing wrong? Curse this! I will catch this thief! He cannot have gone far! Indeed, assuming he decided against a post-meal constitutional swim. Well, if you'll excuse me now, my apologies for upsetting your evening. Detective, one moment, please. Yes. That was a most remarkable deduction. Perhaps you'd be kind enough to tell me your name. Ah, it quite slipped my mind. You've been talking with the one and only Sherlock Holmes. I see. Well, I'm Cosimo Asogi. I'm a student on my way to Great Britain. Pleased to make your acquaintance, Mr. Asogi. And before I forget. Yes? I feel I should warn you. Live cargo is strictly forbidden on this vessel. So you would do well to conceal the stowaway, currently lying low under your bed as carefully as possible. Oh, under the bed? I bid you farewell then, Mr. Asogi. Yes, he's uncovered our secret. I suppose I should have expected nothing less of a great detective. Now then, when did you move under the bed? I thought we'd had it when he opened the wardrobe door. Ah, well, it was thanks to that split-second chance you engineered. That I what? You distracted him for a moment, remember? When you suggested that he investigated the other cabins instead. Oh yes, you turned to look towards the corridor, didn't you? Well, I couldn't see what he was doing, of course. But I thought to myself, it's now or never. The next thing I knew, I was under the bed. You really know how to give me a scare, don't you? Anyway, what's all this about the rib steaks, eh? Sorry about that. I've just been so hungry. Ever since we left Japan, stuck in that tiny wardrobe. Well, you should know. You've been splitting all your meals with me. You must be starving too, surely. Right on cue. And there was that power cut before, wasn't there? For about 10 minutes. So it was then. I caught a whiff of the most delicious smell. And I thought to myself, it's now or never. The next thing I knew, I had the steak in my hands. This man just can't help getting himself into trouble. Well, alright, you were hungry. But 3 steaks? Thanks to you, 3 crewmen are going to go without tonight. They're going to go without tonight, I imagine. No, it was just the one. What? I only took 1 rib steak from the kitchen, that's all. But I don't understand. Yeah, I'm not that selfish. If I'd stolen 3 steaks, I'd have at least tossed 1 your way. I'm not your pet dog. Well, in that case, who stole the other 2? Ah, do you think... could there be a ghost on board? A meat-loving ghost? There can only have been a single bone in the wardrobe when Ryunosuke moved to hide under the bed. Yeah. Which means that the other 2 bones can only have been put there by one very flesh-and-blood person. What's so funny? We're on a haunted ghost ship. A great detective, or a great mischief maker. Either way, I think I'd like to spend a little more time getting to know that man. The great Sherlock Holmes. That one's really good. I love Sherlock so much. Alright, number 3. At the British Supreme Court. It's February 26, 9:17 a.m. British Supreme Court, Lord Chief Justice's office. Ugh, here we are again. Every time we visit here, the atmosphere in this place seems to get more and more overbearing. Just think we could be at home with Mr. Holmes and Iris having a nice cozy breakfast. We have a duty to report the outcome of the case, especially since we're guests here in Britain. So I'm afraid this visit couldn't have been avoided. Suppose not, but is there even anyone here? I hear a pin drop in this place. It's too solemn for its own good. It is very quiet, isn't it? The only sound is the ticking of the great clock as it keeps perfect time. Tock, tick, tock. What was that, I wonder? And the usual comforting sound of the clock seems to have been joined by a less comforting shuffling sound today. You're right, something's disturbing the rhythmical ticking. Sounds rather like an unfit middle-aged man running from pillar to post, clumsily. Goblin, who are you calling unfit? Oh, Inspector Gregson, what are you doing here? What am I? Isn't it flaming obvious? 58 seconds remaining, Inspector. Well, go out to talk later, sunshine. Good morning, Lord Strongheart. Well, he's really looking fiercely at his pocket watch today. And good morning to you. Business so early in the day. Oh, yes, well, I mean, it's about the other day. We are to deliver our report, Lord Strongheart, as our dealings with Mr. Natsume are now over. Oh yes, the little Japanese man. I've already cast my eyes over Van Zeek's report. Oh, God blimey. I must say, the outcome surprised me. I thank you for a job well done. You are too kind, my lord. It's not here, it's not there, it's not over there either. Oh, blimey. I hope you don't mind me asking, but what exactly is the inspector doing? He's been harrying around between the bookshelves looking beside himself with worry. He's looking for particular work, The Lion's Pride. Now there's an all too familiar title. I'd heard it was a popular tale, so I obtained a copy from the rental library. However, I wasn't able to maintain my interest, so I soon cast it aside. I happened to notice a vacant spot on one of my shelves at the time, so I duly stowed the book there. Unfortunately, I no longer remember where that was. Nope, not there. Not here either. Come on, where are you lions hiding? Oh, blimey. The book is due back today, so I've asked Gregson to locate it for me with his investigative prowess. Inside 5 minutes. I must say, I've never seen anyone working so hard to find something. He's like a man possessed. Oh yes, that's because his month's salary is staked upon the outcome. And at whose instigation? Let me guess, this stony-faced lord. And the 5-minute time limit. What's the significance of that? There is none. Just my vulgar, mischievous spirit showing itself, I'm afraid. Oh, by your own admission. I can't. My feet. Oh, killing me. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up, Inspector. God blimey. Which means that next month you will work unpaid and have no days off. No days off. Jesus Christ. There really are just so many books here. It's overwhelming. For some, perhaps, I've purchased every book, new or old, on the subject of law from all over the globe. Wouldn't have believed it a few short decades ago. A place like this couldn't have existed. What do you mean, Inspector? When I was a lad, no one ever dreamed of buying books. Oh, I see. Western books are such a luxury item. Such a luxury items, I suppose, with their leather covers and fancy bindings. No, that's not it. Oh? There was a tax on paper, see? On paper? Yeah, I mean, it was abolished about 30 years back but it used to be the case. There was a tax levied on any kind of paper. So obviously, that meant most folks couldn't afford to buy any books at all. Ah, so is that why places like the rental library you mentioned before came into existence, Lord Strongheart? Indeed, vestiges of the paper tax system, you could say. General public considers books as items for hire. London is home to a vast lending library of some 3.5 million books. You couldn't hope to read all of that, even if you were reincarnated 10,000 times. Even I would choose to rent a book rather than purchase it. If I knew I would read it infrequently. The subject of taxes actually surprised us already in the last few days. It came up in Mr. Natsume's trial. It seems that the window in his room was filled in due to some kind of window tax. That would be true. Unfortunately, the window tax was abolished here some 40 years ago. Sadly, in the East End in particular, many windowless houses remain. Burns always had a bit of a thing for taxing stuff. Whatever they can tax, they tax. Sugar, salt, tea, coffee. You know, candles, beards. Wait, sorry, what was that last one? Did you say beards? Yep, a beard tax. Never heard of it? Never. Why should people have to pay money just because they let their facial hair grow? You may well ask. I suppose it's because it makes them look self-important. Ugh, the Naruhodos will have a strict family policy of no facial hair, I think. You can relax. The beard tax is confined to the annals of history. Annals of history long ago. I'm so immature, laughing at equals instead of annals. Even so, it's clearly something the British really love. Paying taxes, I mean. Paying them. You got that back to front, sunshine. But you can't deny that you had a lot of funny taxes over the years. You never find anything like that in Japan. Would you, Miss Uzuto? In actual fact, I'm afraid to say that you would, Mr. Naruhodo. What? No. You don't mean... Surely there's never been a window tax in Japan. No, but there have been similarly obscure taxes. For example, in the Edo period, there was a frontage tax. What was that? It was a tax not on windows, but on the entrance to properties. The larger a property's entrance was, the greater the tax was that was levied on it. Hang on. Alright, sorry. Even today, some mansions survive with extremely narrow entrances due to that old form of taxation. I had no idea. Sorry, Japanese are as twisted as us Brits. But we never had a beard tax. I mean, that's really going a step too far. Well, no, that's true. I'm not aware of any taxes for beards, at least. What do you mean, at least? Well, rather than tax them, the shogunate did once prohibit them outright. The ruling class prohibited beards? It was called the Great Beard Prohibition. It was an Edo period edict. Why did the powers that be want to ban beards? Because it makes people look self-important. Just an idea. It would seem the rulers in the East and the West have had very similar ideas over the years. There have been other unusual taxes in our history. Even in our current Meiji period, there have. For example, there was before either of us were born. There was a rabbit tax. There was a tax on those adorable fluffy creatures like the one who makes mochi sweets on the moon? Yes, and it was an extremely large tax too. The government demanded extraordinary sums of money. It just gets stranger and stranger. What was the reason for that bizarre tax then? Well, after Japan opened its doors to the world, there was an unprecedented rabbit boom in the Meiji capital. A boom? Yes, keeping rabbits became hugely popular, and new species were traded at exorbitant prices. People even swindled out of all their money for exotically colored rabbits. Like colored chicks, I suppose. Hard to imagine, though. Rabbits are so timid and quiet. Wouldn't have thought one could bankrupt you. So, in response to this worrying social vogue, the government imposed a rabbit tax. Suppose they couldn't just ignore the problem. And it worked because the rabbit boom came to an abrupt end. 6 years later, the tax was abolished. Well, I hate to say it about my own country, but Japan is strange. There's more. After the rabbit tax was abolished, then, of course, society reacted by launching straight into a second rabbit boom. Oh dear, the government didn't think that one through, did they? Your ideas about the world are very much altered by the position you hold in society. If you're responsible for the running of the country, you will feel the need to raise revenue keenly. Well, a stable taxation system, the whole country would go down the drain. Fuck, taxation is theft. Well, yes, I suppose so, but some of these taxes... That's precisely why ministers of state use their wiles to invent new and novel ways of taxing the public. Novel ways? Tell me, Miss Naruhodo, if you were one of my country's statesmen. Me? A British statesman? Yes, what novel tax would you impose? Pray give us something truly original. Inside 5 seconds. What? Oh, think of something that everyone uses, Miss Naruhodo, and really squeeze every penny out of the population. It's quite the intense stare. I'm very glad Susato-san isn't in charge. Your time is up. So, what's your answer? Well... air, maybe? Yes, how about air? An air tax, you say? Oh, well done, Miss Naruhodo. Truly novel and fiendish idea. Well, everyone has to breathe, so while the population is inhaling air, my government is inhaling money. Blimey, you're a tyrant at heart, eh? A somewhat radical solution to a country's revenue problems, but sadly not an original one. No, you mean to say... Surely not. You mean a tax on air has been imposed in the past? It was last century. The finance minister of our neighbor France proposed it. What? If I ever go for a visit, I'm holding my breath. Unsurprisingly, it was strongly opposed by the public and soon scrapped. The minister didn't last long either. Oh dear. Although clearly that would have been an untenable situation. Public at large are a force to be reckoned with. Don't I know it? How about you, Inspector? What new tax did you impose? Let me see. Our first thought is tax on objections. Sorry? Been hearing far too many of them recently in court. There's a particular lawyer I have in mind, as it happens. So I think an objection tax could be very handy. Good to see you don't allow your personal views to influence your work in public office. I reckon 5 pence for every objection raised would be about right. A most amusing proposal, Gregson. A most unamusing proposal, my lord. Well then, I think it's your turn now. Sorry, my turn for what? Why, what else? To locate my missing copy of The Lion's Bride. Oh, it's on one of the shelves in this room. Of that I am certain. Now, I shall give you 10 minutes. And let's take your student stipend on it. Failed to find the book, and you forfeit next month's payment. Objection! Your time starts now. Oh, and one more thing. I believe you just said the word objection. Ugh. Kindly leave your 5 pence over there before you begin combing the shelves. This tax is gonna be the death of me. That's fucking hilarious. So yeah, believe it or not, most of those taxes are indeed real. Well, were indeed real. There wasn't a paper tax, but there was the Stamp Act of 1712, which taxed published papers. So, close to a paper tax. Window tax, already established within Case 4. There was a beer tax. It was King Henry the 8th. Yeah, it's the 8th. And yeah, Henry VIII enforced that. Frontage tax was indeed a thing. It was a part of another tax called Kariage, which was based on profession and all that. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, the shogunate had to force the samurai to have beards, or else, literally the exact line of dialogue from when I'm reading from the wiki, because they'll be made fun of. Also, yeah, rabbits were technically like not from Japan, but like rabbits were imported and then bred with hair so that they can make the the white rabbit that everyone knows. And that there was a rabbit boom in tax from 1873 to 1879. Such a fucking... I love these already. Especially seeing Lord Stronghorn with like this too. I was not expecting that. Wait, time for episode 4 and Holmes' Suite. Both episode 3 and 4 are gonna be after case 4. 9th March, 8:23 a.m. Holmes' Suite. Good morning, Iris. Good morning, Mr. Holmes. Oh, morning, Susie. I'll get breakfast on the table for us all. Mr. Holmes. Morning. Come now. Why long face? Oh, I'm sorry. The thing is, I just had a rather strange envelope posted under my door this morning. Some rather strange things inside. What strange things? Oh, what was it, Runo? Do I catch the scent of mystery in the air? Nothing so exciting, I'm afraid, Iris. It was just 5 orange pips. Can't imagine what it could possibly... What? Orange pips, Miss Naruhodo? And 5 of them? What's the matter with you? That's a bit of an overreaction, isn't it? An overreaction, Miss Naruhodo? You don't understand. It's a warning. A notice of imminent danger to your life. What? To my life? What's the meaning of all this, Mr. Holmes? My dear fellow, why do you make such an inquiry of me? Because the name of the sender was written on the envelope, and it was yours. Oh, you're right, Runo. It says, sent by Holmes, envoy of hell. Ah! So my little ploy has been exposed. Well, so be it. Cast your mind back, if you will, Miss Naruhodo, to the time of our dining last night. Oh yes, Miss Susato cooked Japanese food for us. Indeed, in particular, you may recall the final norimaki sushi roll that was about to savor. That is, before you swooped in with your clacking chopsticks and filched it from under my nose. Oh, I assume because you left it that you didn't want it. I left it, my dear fellow, because I planned to enjoy it as my very last mouthful. Surely you must have noted my intent by the subtle dilation of my right pupil. Perhaps a clearer sign would be helpful next time. Just an idea. In summary, the post you received earlier is a notice of impending revenge. You should be quaking in your boots. Really? Because I went straight out into the garden and planted them. I'm hopeful we may grow some exotic fruit. There's no point sending a notice of impending revenge if the person you send it to doesn't know what it is. Well, I knew, of course, because I've read this book. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. On sale now in all major London bookshops and receiving rave reviews. Oh yes, of course. It's finally been published, hasn't it? It's heard selling very well. It is 12 short stories in 1 volume. I've been to a lifetime spending money already. It has further bolstered my name. In fact, only the other day, a Bohemian king sought to engage my services. Really? That's extraordinary. Of course, the gentleman persisted with some pretense about being a fishmonger for the duration. Hang on. Alright, sorry, I'm back. But only a fool would presume to be able to deceive my eyes with such a charade. So, how did you know that he was a king then? Why, there was no mystery, my dear fellow. A distinct smell of fish accompanied the man's lowly apparel. And though he tried to hide it, the left side of his mustache quivered in a quite manifest manner. Oh, Mr. Holmes, that's simply brilliant. Having neatly resolved the case for the man, I was sent a quantity of fresh card as a mark of his appreciation. Think perhaps you shouldn't discount the possibility that he actually was a fishmonger. Is that? Can anyone else smell burning? Yes. Oh, yes, you're right. And look, smoke. I think maybe... Fire! Fire! There's a fire, everyone! Really? A fire? Let's all leave at once. Everyone, out of the building! I'm gonna fight this fire. No, wait, I have to go back to my room first. Are you deranged? If you're not asphyxiated by the smoke, the flames will burn you to death. But my Daruma doll, I can't let my Daruma burn. It means too much. Oh, drat. Sorry, but I'm gonna make a dash for it upstairs. Aruna, you're so funny. There's no time for jokes, Iris. Go, quickly. Get out of there. Get out of here. But there is no fire. Is there, Hurley? Huh? What a delight to see that ploy enacted in the flesh. I wouldn't have dared to dream I could be so. I should be so lucky. Miss Suzato? Indeed, it was a ploy. A devilment engineered by my puckish spirit. It's all a trick, but why? It is a simple experiment to the mind, Miss Naruto. When his life is threatened, a fellow is compelled instinctively to protect that property to which he attaches matching importance. After your own life, Runa, the most important thing to you seems to be your Daruma doll. Let's not dwell on that, shall we, Iris? So you knew all along, Miss Suzato, that it was a trick? Yes, of course. The very ploy is described in this book. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. On sale now in all major London bookshops and receiving great reviews. Oh, not again. I've used that device quite satisfactorily in the past to solve a case. Oh yes, it was a great success, wasn't it? But then it became something of a habit, didn't it? You started yelling fire at every crime scene. In the end, people started to pay no attention to you at all. Yes, that's true. There was a time when I was known as the Holmes who cried wolf. I think there's a lesson to be learned in there somewhere. But sadly, my little ploy failed to yield the result. Yield the results this time. I was just utterly unmoved. What do you mean? Well, I was anticipating that Iris would immediately expose her secret hiding place. The location of the nest egg she must have had cached somewhere in this room. Nest egg? Do you think Iris has some secret savings? Why, naturally, the book is selling like hotcakes after all. It is a simple deduction indeed to conclude that the profits must be concealed here within these walls. Oh, Mr. Holmes, are you in need of money? Ah, I better know what it is. It's a new microscope that's gone on sale, isn't it, Harry? What else? I have such a strong desire to own one, yet my purse is £1 too light. And as no offer of a loan has been forthcoming, I have been forced to resort to an alternative stratagem. Sorry, Ellie, but I'm not falling for that. Not coming from the Holmes who cried wolf. Ah, how vexing. You really shouldn't be trying to steal a 10-year-old's savings, you know. That book is full of little tricks like that, you see. The armory of the great detective. Except that in this case, both Orange Pips and the fake fire fell a little flat, didn't they? Oh, I have plenty more tricks up my sleeve. Take, for example, the case of the Boscombe Valley Mystery. I'm already filled with dread, just from the title. It's a tale of extraordinary skill on the part of the great detective, the skill of tracking. Tracking? When I arrived at the scene of the crime in my eponymous valley, there were footprints everywhere, but my eye was immediately drawn to one set in particular. Oh, Mr. Holmes, your detective instincts are truly remarkable. As you know, my dear madam, no detail, no matter how small, escapes the scrutiny of these eyes. So I tracked my quarry, following the trail of his footprints all the way to the man's place of residence. I led you directly to the culprit's house? What a triumph. You must understand. It led me directly to my own house, my dear fellow. Huh? For the footprints were, in the final analysis, those made by my own shoes. Well, they had left here for Boscombe Valley as soon as he received the telegram about the case, you see. And then he followed his own trail straight back here to Baker Street. Now, Iris, please. You make it sound almost humdrum, but I assure you it is no easy feat. Tracking of this nature is a skill possessed only by the great Sherlock Holmes. You're right, it really is extraordinary. Quite so, extraordinary is the word, and let it be the last on the subject. Anyway, needless to say, I subsequently went on to solve the case with various other deductions. Yes, it's the various other deductions that I'm interested in. Ah well, you should have to read the book then. I'm sure Iris has penned it with her usual flourish. Oh, absolutely. I've put an ingenious spin on the great detective's exploits. It must have been very ingenious to make this man sound even remotely credible as a detective. Wait, is that... Does it smell like something's burning again? I've had enough devilment for one day, Mr. Holmes. Put your puckish spirit to bed. I assure you, this has nothing to do with me or my spirit. What? Oh no, the smoke is getting thicker. You mean, it's not a trick this time? There really is a... Fire! Fire! There's a fire, everyone! Ah! Mr. Suto, where are you going? Stand aside, Miss Naruto. Oh, easy, Mr. Holmes. What are you... Mr. Holmes? Why don't you just chuck that bust of Napoleon on the floor? Oh, look at that. Amongst all the broken porcelain. Coins, sovereigns, in fact, worth a whole pound each. Come, everyone. We must leave at once. Evacuate the building. You fair forward, Hurley. Hook, line, and sinker. What you mean? Iris! I certainly wouldn't have guessed that's where you'd hidden it. Do you mean to say that this smoke was... My own puckish spirit needs to come out and play sometimes too, you know. What? Of course. I know what it is, Iris. It's an indoor herb garden set that went on sale last week, isn't it? That's what you're after. I want one so desperately, but I'm £4 short. And even though you told me you didn't have any money to spare before. I knew you had a secret nest egg somewhere in this room. Ah, you've outwitted me again. You really shouldn't let yourself be outwitted by a 10-year-old child, you know. So thank you for the loan, Hurley. Oh, but wait. What's the matter? Where's Susie? She's disappeared. Oh yes, that's right. She went off up the stairs before, didn't she? Oh, what are you all still doing in here? We have to evacuate. It won't be long before the fire is... Ah. Sorry, Susie. Children will get up to mischief once in a while, you know, but it's all perfectly harmless. Harmless, maybe, but oh, so devious. See, all the references there... Oh, no, it's not done yet. Fuck. Oh, well, at least nobody was hurt. Apart from Napoleon, and my secret hoard. Now, tell us, Miss Suzuto, what is it that you went so fleet-footedly to fetch? Sorry? Oh, no, nothing. This is nothing. Susie, that's your notebook detailing all of Runo's trials, isn't it? It's bulging at the seams. What? Ah, a testament to the various people you've helped over the past months. Miss Suzuto, Well, I am your judicial assistant, after all. I will do anything to ensure the safety of these records. Even risk my life, if necessary. I mean, it's very important to me. It's like a diary of everything we've achieved together. Getting all teary-eyed now. Yes, in stark contrast to a certain someone who would have fetched his Daruma doll, I must say. Oh. That's it for that one. Holy these are fucking great, man. So yeah, Sherlock Holmes references the five orange pips from a real book, real novel from Sherlock Holmes. A Scandal in Bohemia is where that fire trick happens. Of course, we already know about the Boscombe Valley mystery. And Napoleon Bust is a reference to the Adventure of the Six Napoleons. I haven't read most of these Sherlock Holmes books. I tried my best, but there's a fuck ton of them, okay? I've read a decent amount. but nowhere near close enough. Anyway, time for numero 5. Naruto's legal consultancy. We're halfway there. Hello, I'm back. Oh, hello, Miss Naruto. Did you have a good outing? Hi, Runo. What's the matter? Your eyes are as big as dinner plates. Iris, I wasn't expecting to see you here. Just made some tea, Miss Naruto. Would you like a cup? A cup or two? Yes. Definite tea. Alright, Runo, what's going on? You're acting extremely strangely. What, me? No, not at all. I'm as normal can be. Normal tea itself. Haha. Not again, Miss Naruto. Sorry, not what again? What do you mean, Susie? Whenever he goes out on his own lately, he always seems to come back with a peculiar new purchase. Peculiar? Peculiar? What's peculiar about the things I've bought? I seem to think that anything British is a curio you simply must have. You keep buying its items of bric-a-brac, even though you don't know what they are. Well, there are rather a lot of bric-a-brac shops and pawnbrokeries and the like around here. It's when I've been to Lord Strongheart's to give my weekly report. I'm all so nervous beforehand. On the way home, I just find myself in those shops and... Yes, alright, I can't deny it. I bought something. You're right, you can't deny it, because your eyes are wider than ever. You really ought to put up a warning sign about them. They're bigger than some potholes around here. It's hard to resist things in the bric-a-brac shop. It's also cheap. Mr. Holmes has given me lots of useful advice about how to pick out the real bargains. You must remember, Runo, that Hurley likes to have fun with you. Take his advice with a big pinch of salt. Well, that's true. That thing he told me was a pot stand wasn't the thing he told me was a pot stand wasn't a pot stand at all. I'd never have guessed it was a collapsible top hat. No, and I never would have guessed that you could fill up this one empty room so quickly. Honestly, it's overflowing with things we don't need now. I mean, look at those scales. Not once have you weighted something on them. I know, but ever since I first stood at the defense's bench in court, I don't know why, but I've really just wanted my own little set of scales. Let's see it then, Miss Naruto. What have you come home with today? Oh, well, it's, one of these. What is it? It looks all dry and shriveled up in a ball. Really, Miss Naruto? What is it? It's a sea anemone. An anemone? Yes, I mean, I know it doesn't look like it at the moment. It's all shriveled up, like you said. Aren't sea anemones living creatures? The ones that dance about on the seabed? Yes, exactly. The ones that dance about on the seabed. Oh, they sell sea anemones in the I fucking hate that word. They sell sea anemones in bric-a-brac shops here in Britain. Enemy spotted. I don't know whether they normally do or not, but I do know that I bought one today. But why, Runo? Well, yes, for the aquarium, of course. Aquarium? I don't know that word. Well, according to the shopkeeper, keeping sea creatures in tanks was hugely popular here in London before. Oh yes, some people have some beautiful fish in seawater tanks, it's true. Having an aquarium became popular because the old glass tax was abolished. There it is again, rearing its ugly head, the subject of taxation. No, another real tax, of course. It was a real craze for a while. Everyone in London had one. For a while. Yes, it didn't last long. People's enthusiasm soon waned. It's just far too much work to be changing the seawater regularly in a city like London. Never a true word said, I'm sure. You think people might have realized that from the start, really? Wouldn't you? Anyway, that was long before I was born. So now everyone jokes that there's an unloved aquarium covered in dust in every attic in the capital. And it's true, there's one in this attic too. When I told the man in the bric-a-brac shop about it, he had these words of wisdom. That's why this is the age of the sea anemone. And that made a lot of sense to me. It made sense to you, did it? But Runa, this anemone is completely dried up. You just need to soak it in water overnight and it'll be as good as new. That's what the man said. Not sure that it works in the same way as dried wakame seaweed, Mr. Naruhodo. Once I save some money, I'm gonna buy some prawns to keep this little fellow company. Oh, how exciting! Your office will be teeming with life. Will it really? Britain is a funny country, though. I mean, a sea anemone craze? Well, they say people in glass houses about comments like that here, Mr. Naruhodo. Don't forget that there was a very curious rabbit craze in our own country not so very long ago. A mortifying chapter that people will try to erase from the history books 100 years from now, I'm sure. You know, there was another craze as well before the aquarium one. Have you ever heard of Wardian cases? Wardy, what? No, I've definitely never heard of them. They were little glazed cases for growing plants indoors, I believe. Oh, I see, for plant lovers to raise their favorite tropical plants. That's right, like different types of ferns. Ferns? Do you mean those rather dull plants with lots of fronds for leaves? They're not dull at all. Ferns are lovely plants. I think people want to recreate the exotic foliage of the tropics in their own homes. So they grew ferns? I mean ferns. Sea anemones. Londoners certainly have a knack for the obscure. Well, thinking about it, my grandfather loved the moss on his bonsai. He looked after it better than the trees. Seems like the more obscure thing something is, it seems like the more obscure something is, the more it interests people. I can't fucking talk today. Maybe, but anyway, the Wardian case craze didn't last very long. Now, most of these little glass cases are just gathering dust, I think. Haven't I seen one in your room, Iris? Oh, very observant of you, Susie. Yes, that's right. Mine's certainly not gathering dust. I grow tropical herbs in it. Well, Miss Naruhodo, I really must ask you to stop all this frivolous buying of strange things. Yes, alright. Sorry. It's just that, well, think about Mr. Holmes's room. He has all sorts of peculiar trinkets lying around. Oh, well, yes, that's true. And they seem to be growing in number. Recently I've noted a blowpipe, a few barrel crystals set in a twisted piece of gold-rimmed pince-nez. I noticed a small gramophone record in there the other day, so I slipped it onto the gramophone. But it was just a whispering voice saying, Norbury, and nothing more. What could it possibly be about? Those are all mementos of cases that Hurley sold over the years. Exactly, that's what I want to create in here. Just that sort of atmosphere. A room full of meaningful trinkets, each with their own unique history, you mean? Yes, that. I knew you'd understand, Miss Suzuto. But, Miss Naruhodo, none of the things you've bought for the room have any connection with any of our cases. Oh, don't they? Well, for example, take that splendid but rather weather-beaten top hat. That wasn't used as evidence in any of the cases we worked on, was it? Oh, so you have two top hats if you count the collapsible one as well? No, the collapsible one is a pot stand. As far as I'm concerned, anyway. Well, the other day when we were in court, they were everywhere, weren't they? Top hats, I mean. Well, here in Britain, of course, they're the mark of a true gentleman, so that's hardly surprising. If a man isn't wearing a top hat when he ventures out of doors, he'll be looked down upon. Gosh, there's very strict rules, doesn't it? The English Gentleman's Code. I've been wondering how I'd look in a top hat recently. After all, my university uniform is black as well, so I think it would be very, very in keeping. Oh, what good idea. Go on then, Runo. Try it on. Please tell me there's a model of him wearing a top hat. Please. The lesson here, I suppose, is that the juxtaposition of student and gentleman is just so strange and wrong. Well, rather, it didn't suit me anyway. I mean, these hats are ridiculous. I'd be willing to bet every foreigner who sees one of these for the first time thinks exactly the same thing. Why is that man wearing a chimney on his head? People in glass houses, remember, Runo? What do you mean? Well, what about Japanese Seanmage top knots, whose haircuts are the height of ridiculousness? Ugh, true. At least you can take a hat off. Once you have a Jeonmage, it's Chon your head for good. I'd be willing to bet every foreigner who sees a Chonmage for the first time thinks exactly the same thing. Why is that man wearing a cannon on his head? I suppose that's what it means to have different cultures, isn't it? On the subject of hats, the one Mr. Holmes always wears is really very strange, don't you think? I beg your pardon, Miss Naruhodo? What a thing to say! It has the very essence of Mr. Holmes. Yes, without his deerstalker, the great detective would be unrecognizable. It's called a deerstalker? That's a surprisingly swanky name. It's the head of a hunter, just like the flat cap. I made up my mind long ago to visit Regent Street and buy one for myself. I'm not sure it's going to fit over your hair. Well, I think it's perfect for a great detective who stalks his criminal quarry. What do you think is strange about it anyway? Well, you've seen it. There's two brims, one on the front and the back, and one on the back. Why do you need two brims on a hat? Surely one on the front is enough, no? One moment, please. If you ask me, it's just Mr. Holmes' madcap personality coming through. But it's so that he doesn't have to think about which way around to put it on or something like that. Mr. Holmes does not have a madcap personality. He always has a clear head. Deerstalkers were made for hunters who had to hide in thickets where they were stalking their prey. The brim at the back was designed to stop the stalks of plants scratching the backs of their necks. Oh, so that's the reason. Thank you, Iris, for educating us. Mr. Holmes doesn't spend a lot of time in thickets, though, does he? Well, no. That's true. I'm telling you, it's just his impetuous personality. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Firmly. Ah. Here you all are. Oh, good afternoon, Mr. Holmes. I've not long since made some tea, Mr. Holmes. Would you like a cup? I see you've come at a good time, Miss Uzuto. Thank you. Now, I have something I should like you all to see. I designed myself a brand new great detective's hat. What the? There's a brim at the front and at the back, and at both sides. 4 brims in total. Your observation is quite correct, my dear madam. I'm a busy man, you see. But with this hat, whichever way I put it on, I shall always have it pointing the correct way. Oh. With my previous hat, I could, in an impetuous moment, wear it erroneously with the brims on either side. That's impressively clumsy, I would say. And I must regretfully say, I think your madcap theory was correct after all. But really, Mr. Holmes, with brims on all 4 sides like that, wouldn't it just be better to wear a top hat instead? Oh yes, then how will you put it on? You'd have a brim all around. What? So true, so true. How could I have been so blinkered to this fact until now? Well, fortunately, I happen to have 2 top hats here. If you just lift the pot off it, you're welcome to try that one there. Indeed I shall, my good fellow. Much obliged. Much obliged. Oh dear, Hurley, it looks terrible. More terrible than I could possibly have imagined. Oh, that's not good. Maybe it's because of your long face. Paired with a tall hat, it just doesn't work. I think it's very nice, Mr. Holmes, even if it will have the whole world in fits of laughter. Ah! I should never have meddled with it. Give me a deerstalker forevermore. Give me my Regulation University hat forevermore, that you don't fucking wear. There's still hope that you'll graduate one day, Miss Naruhodo. Don't give up. That was another good one. That was really good. There's only like really one reference to Sherlock Holmes' story, and that's with Norbury. It's actually a story I did read, The Adventure of the Yellow Face. Sherlock Holmes actually fucked up a deduction, and at the end he's like, you know what, Watson, if I mess up in my powers of deduction, just, and, just whisper Norbury in my ear and I'll understand, like, that I'm on the wrong track. It's a really good story. I recommend that one. Anyway, this is the last one with Sherlock Holmes stories. Well, just with reference to general. There is actually no Sherlock Holmes references in this one, at least from what I'm reading on the wiki page. It involves Mr. Natsume. I get to hear his voice again. Episode 6. Just a second here. So yeah, 23rd of February, 6:09 p.m. Mr. Natsume's room. So, Mr. Natsume, are you really returning home to Japan? Yes, indeed I am. Everything is arranged already. We'll be sad to see you go. That Runo worked so hard to prove your innocence as well. What a shame. It feels like it was all a wasted effort. Don't say that! I know what you're suggesting. Now calm down, Mr. Natsume. It's all fine, really. You're in good company here, sir. If you fear the Reaper, you needn't hide the fact. I am a proud citizen of the Empire of Japan. I am not a scaredy cat. Talking of cats, Mr. Holmes just casually threw one among the pigeons there. A man like me belongs in Japan, not here. That's what I've come to realize. I wonder. A mustache such as yours is eminently suited to London, I would say. There goes Mr. Holmes, throwing another cat in. The moment I arrived in the city, I noticed. Everyone in London laughs at me behind my back, like hyenas. Hysterical hyenas ha-haing horribly for their appearance. I'm sure that's not true, Mr. Natsume. Oh, but it is. Whenever I turn around and peer down the foxy-filled streets, all I see is foreigners everywhere. Well, there's you, Bruno, and Susie in here, so that's 3 foreigners out of 5 people. I take your point. Only the other day, I was taking a stroll through the fog as usual when a young man approached me from behind. He was pale and gaunt, his back arched like a cat. Observing his wretchedness moved me so deeply. Ah, I thought to myself, I'm not the only one suffering in this hell. But, do you know what? Can you imagine? It was just my own reflection in a shop window. A stunning, stinging, stupefying surprise! Don't forget, slap in the face. Everyone started laughing at me. Gentlemen thereabouts, ladies passing by. Even the man in the shop window. Ah, yes, and a certain great detective would like to be included among the mirthful. Ah! Mr. Holmes is really going for Soseki-san today. Well, I for one think you're a very handsome man, Mr. Natsume. There, did you hear that? This 10-year-old girl thinks you're handsome. Isn't that wonderful? It makes me feel suspiciously warm inside. He looks genuinely delighted. The point is, we Japanese are humble and modest. Studying on foreign soil, surrounded by foreign people, how could anyone possibly enjoy that? No one could, it's impossible. If you're a genuine Japanese. Well, if you say so. Actually, it would appear that there is someone. A Japanese man who studied in a foreign country and seems to have thrived on the experience. There is? Mr. Ogai Mori. I believe he studied in Germany. Mr. Mori, pray tell us more of the fellow. Well, today he's a very successful author in Japan. Oh, I've heard of him. He's the professor who wrote My Hime, isn't he? My Hime? I suppose in English the title would be Dancing Queen, maybe. Oh, I see. A tale of a woman who waltzed her way through the world, perhaps? You really need to make up a silly translation, you know. It's already officially called The Dancing Girl in English. It seems Mr. Mori greatly enjoyed his time in Germany. He became close with a local lady while he was there. Close, you say? With a local lady? A compatriot's criminally contradictory conduct? Well, I suppose your experience of studying abroad depends to word diarrhea this episode. Well, I suppose your experience of studying abroad depends to a large extent on your character. Ugh, I say. Many men, many minds. Mr. Mori has an open mind. Mr. Natsume, a closed one. Possibly a slightly black and white view, do you think, Mr. Holmes? Well, anyway, if that's how you feel about being abroad, why'd you choose to study here? Wasn't it to further our nation's understanding of the English language or something? Yes, that's right. So what were you doing in Japan before you came to Great Britain then? I was a school teacher. Of English, of course. Bit cursory perhaps, but I've managed to discover some information about Mr. Natsume's teaching days. That's just a little outside of the field of law, isn't it, Mr. Sato? Well, let me pose you a question, Mr. Naruhodo. If you had to translate the English phrase, I love you, into Japanese, what would it become? It's easy. Aishiteru, or Suki desu. Wrong. According to Mr. Natsume's teachings, at least. What? Would you like to explain, Mr. Natsume? Yes, of course. Your research was very thorough. I always used to tell my students that we Japanese don't express ourselves that way. Rather, we might say, Suki ga kirei desu ne. Suki ga kirei desu ne. I can pronounce some things in Japanese, but I don't fucking speak the language, okay? So, sorry. My dear Natsume, I must interject. Suki ga kirei desu ne would translate as, the moon is beautiful, isn't it? I know that! The point is that we Japanese are reticent when it comes to expressing our emotions. We prefer to show our feelings of adoration, our Suki, by appreciating the beauty of the moon, the Suki. Ah, using the Suki to express Suki. It's an amusing play on words, I see. No, or language you might understand better. Bad Holmes. It's not a play on words. It's subtle. It's humble. It's fleeting and beautiful. It's art. Isn't it just being shy? Ah, my dear fellow, the foreign dancing girl will forever be out of your reach with such an attitude. Oh. Imagine how the great Mr. Mori would act. He would win the lady's heart in a flash with a well-placed and unrestrained "I love you." Ah, that's smooth, Mr. Mori. Am I destined to live in a shadow forever? Just what sort of man is he in that imagination of yours? The fact is, I just can't settle in this foggy London town with all its foreign inhabitants. Lost count of the number of different lodgings I tried before I found myself here. As it happens, I even lived on Baker Street at one time. No, really? A South scholar lives near there, a man by the name of William James Craig. His knowledge of Sao is unsurpassed. He's been a great inspiration to me over the... Forgive the interruption, but... How am I supposed to be familiar with this Sao of which you speak? It's Shakespeare, of course. Shakespeare. But in Japanese we write it as S-A-N-O. It's a phonetic representation using kanji characters. So England is Igirisu. And America is America. Come to think of it, we use the same character as Ri in other words, and Risu in another. Talk about confusing. So Shakespeare is Sao in Japanese. Presumably the Sa is a brutal attempt at the first she, in which case, where is it? Spear. Never thought of that. We only have the O left. Which could, even in the most charitable interpretation, only be a brutal attempt at old man. Seems to me that whoever had the job of deciding on the characters for his name got bored very early on. Complete kanji character catastrophe! So then, on to the burning question. What about me? How do you write my name? Sorry? Sherlock Holmes, my dear fellow. There must be Japanese characters for my name. Oh dear. I'm sorry, Mr. Holmes, but none exist that I'm aware of. What? Am I really nothing to you Japanese? In that case, it's a matter of paramount importance. You must construct my name in kanji at once. Oh, well, we could use a kanji that's pronounced so to start with, and then use one more to give. So, oh, perhaps. I think that would be about right, Mr. Holmes. But that's almost the same as sao, isn't it? Yes, you employ the dreaded O. I don't want people to confuse me with an old man who died centuries ago. I'm sure the world's greatest literary figure would rather not be confused with you either. Well, the world's greatest detective is still youthful and full of vigor. So how about so handsome? Oh yes, that sounds wonderful. Sure, everyone will be calling you that 100 years from now. How can she say that with a straight face? What about me then, Iris? Perhaps Hime, since the second character doesn't seem to matter. Hime, oh yes, Princess of Love. That's an adorable name for you, Iris. Stop, please! With a name like that. Mr. Mori is likely to turn up at any moment and rush to declare I love you. This Mori-san has become quite a character in Soseki-san's mind. And you, Miss Naruhodo? Might I venture Kurobozu as a fitting name for you, as in the Dark Monk? That's very good. It describes you perfectly, Bruno. So you think I'll be wearing this black varsity uniform for the rest of my days, do you? But Mr. Naruhodo already has a Japanese name. I don't believe he needs another. Well, anyway. We were talking about your life here in London, weren't we, Miss Natsume? You should just get out and have fun. Oh, the landlady has said as much to me too. Mrs. Garrida. Well, it wasn't fun at all. It was frightful. Whatever do you mean? A cycle incident! An incident on a bicycle? Oh yes, you come to think of it. An explanation for why that bike is fucked up. There's an old bicycle parked just outside, isn't there? It's in a sorry state, though. I tried to say no to her, but she insisted I took her for a ride. Perhaps my pronunciation was wrong. So I took my life in my hands and attempted to ride the steel, spiderwebbed stallion to a nearby park. I don't think there's anything wrong with your pronunciation, Mr. Natsume. Joan Garrett just isn't the kind of woman to take no for an answer. If you're going to die, you might as well die in beautiful surroundings, so the park was my first thought. After a whole day of dicing with death, I emerged with only relatively minor bruises. So, you got the knack of it? Don't be silly. Dying isn't something you can learn to do. Mr. Natsume, you keep talking about dicing with death and dying and so forth, but riding a bicycle is supposed to be fun. Oh no, that's just what people tell you. But it's an old wives' tale. Is it? I mean, just consider the real name of the vehicle. It's not called a bicycle, or for nothing. How can anyone expect to use such an aptly named vehicle to move forward is beyond me. Pedal power promises pain. I didn't think it was possible to get worse with practice. I'm lucky to be alive. Although, I must say, after looking death in the eye for a whole week, I did at least manage to mount the steed reliably. And notwithstanding a few wobbles, I found I could make progress in the forward direction. What a triumph. Deduction is much the same. When first presented with a problem, the mental exertion of trying to solve it leads only to bitter disappointment. But after a week of picking one's way carefully along the path of reasoning and thought, one begins to see results. So, is that why all of your off-the-cuff deductions always seem half-baked? What a wonderful insight into your extraordinary mind, Mr. Holmes. Unfortunately, after wobbling down the street, I noticed there were little stones everywhere. Death traps. Not that way, I said to myself. But the wild vehicle wouldn't listen. It rolled me on and on down the street. So of course, I hit one of those deadly stones, and the crazy colt threw me. It's just my luck. Bicycles are the epitome of my pitiful life. I wish I could disagree. On the same subject, I'm sure there's a famous American author who's written about having a similar experience. Yes, I've read that essay too, Iris. Some of us are better read than others. Well, no more bicycles for me. Oh, Mr. Natsume, at least you have an interesting anecdote to take with you back to Japan, if nothing else. You always manage to put a positive spin on things, don't you, Miss Suzato? Personally, I haven't mounted a bicycle for some time. No, me neither. That's good. So how about a jaunt? We shall ride out together. Huh? That sounds great. I'll perch behind Miss Suzuto. But, the sun is going down. It'll be pitch black before long. London street lamps are very bright, you know, and the fog isn't too thick today. My beloved ride is all bent out of shape. My dear fellow, if you're bound to topple the vehicle anyway, it's fitting that it's already bent out of shape. It's settled then. Come along, Mr. Natsume. Shall we go? Suki ga kirei desu ne. Don't tell me there's translation of no thank you. Don't tell me this is translation of no thank you as well. Indeed, Mr. Natsume, the moon is at its most beautiful at precisely this time in the evening. Oh. We're not Japanese. You can't beat around the bush with us. What a weird and wonderful world! Oh my god, these are fucking amazing. So yeah, there's only 3 references to this. Morio guy is actually a real person. He's a translator, novelist, poet. He had his father. His father was actually an author named Mori, or Mori, whatever. He was actually a surgeon general officer in the Japanese army, so that's interesting to hear. And My Hime, of course, is his first story he ever wrote in 1890. Then there's I guess maybe because in the original version of the game, they actually for the Scarlet Study stuff, they have each of the kanji spelled out like that, or I don't know. But anyway, we already understood what most of the kanji is anyway. And then William James Craig is an actual editor of Shakespeare's plays who actually had Natsume Soseki Natsume as his pupil. So that's another interesting little tidbit. They added another character that's involved with Soseki Natsume. Anyway, time for episode 7. There's no more Sherlock Holmes references that I saw from looking at stuff, so on to this one. Only 2 more left. 30th of April, 12:20 p.m. Briar Road. Sir, Constable Raleigh Beat, reporting for duty. Thanks to the good offices of Lord Van Zix. I'm back on my beat here in the capital. Do my best for the good citizens of London, sir. Ah, my Raleigh, back in his Bobby's uniform. You couldn't look any more handsome if you tried. Oh, my love, you say the sweetest things. Oh, Pat. Oh, Raleigh. To us, Lord Van Zix isn't the Reaper of the Bailey at all. Oh no, of course not. He's a patron saint of Bobby's. Patron saint? Oh yes, Pat, you're so right, my darling. Keeping us in pocket he is. On my first day back on the job, what did I find in the gutter? A shilling, my love. A whole shilling. Oh, Raleigh, I always believed in you. I always knew one day you'd find some big, small change. It was just that shilling. I could buy you a cheap bunch containing a single flower, my sugar. Single flower? Oh, how romantic. But I'm so sorry, Pat. Only moments ago, that shilling disappeared. Disappeared? But how, my love? How? I think maybe. No, I'm sure. It was this girl here, sir. You swiped my precious shilling, didn't you? You cheeky little diver. Blimey. You took your time getting round to me, didn't you? I thought that lovey-dovey stuff wasn't ever gonna end. So, I shouldn't, you say? Looked it from you, what? Don't know nothing about it. Where's the evidence, eh? Right there. The evidence is dancing around in the back of your hand, young lady. You stole it from me. You lifted it from my pocket just now. You got a nerve stealing from a Bobby. Cobblers, this coin's mine. How could you know, anyway? How could you know that it was taken just now or not? Dear me, you don't get it, do you? We've hardly got a penny to our name, so that coin felt as heavy to me as a bar of gold. Eh? I'm telling you, the moment it left my pocket, I knew. I felt myself get a good few pounds lighter. Ah! Yep, that coin has got my blood, sweat and tears all over it. What's the matter with you, eh, Miss Naruto? Huh? Me? Sorry? When lady's in trouble, a true gent's supposed to be there to help. Straight away, not an hour later. This isn't my fault. I haven't stolen anything. And what about you, eh, Holmes? I thought you were supposed to be a great detective. Dear me, Mr. Strahd. You took your name getting around to... You took your time getting around to me, didn't you? I thought the longest dispute was never going to end. You only said, give us a minute, when we spotted you over the road and said hello. And that was 10 minutes ago, Ginny. We've just been standing here listening to you quarrel with this Bobby. Oh, beg your pardon, madam. We shouldn't be troubling the public with police business. But that shilling belongs to us, doesn't it, Rolly? Of course it does, my love. It's just for you and me, my darling. Urgh. This is just supposed to be a nice stroll with Iris and Mr. Holmes before afternoon tea. Why do we have to run into another fiasco on Briar Road? I don't really know how we could be of any help, Gina. There's no way of knowing who the coin really belongs to if it was just dropped in the gutter. I wouldn't be so sure of that, Runo. What? I have a feeling I might know the answer to the question of whose coin that is. Oh, my bright young fellow lodger. Let us hear your deduction. Well, there's actually a reason why I suggested a stroll down Briar Road. Oh, what reason? You see, I was here yesterday and, well, I dropped a little something. So I want to come and look for it. While enjoying an afternoon stroll. Wait, you dropped something? You don't mean... It was the pocket money that Hurley gave me. What's this, Iris? You dropped that, did you? I'm sorry. I went to the market on Lime Street yesterday to pick up some herbs, you see. On the way, I must have dropped it. The 1 shilling coin you gave me. Oh. A 1 bob bit? Yes, and when I thought back over the route I took, I realized I must have dropped it here. Constable, you haven't seen it, have you? I stole my pocket money and now it's gone. Well, I'm afraid I don't know anything about that young lady. But what rotten luck dropping your money like that. Sorry. I dare say the constable and his companion could give you a run for your money with their white eyes. All the same to you, if it's all the same to you, Mr. Holmes, I think I'd prefer not to be used as the yardstick for looking guilty. Well, it's tough, really, ain't it, Iris? You dropped it, so it ain't yours no more. Now, well, you know what they say. What goes around comes around. Don't feel bad. Bad luck, Iris. It doesn't look like you're going to get your coin back. Oh, I can't believe I've lost it, and straight after Hurley gave it to me as well. Yes, regrettable indeed. I seem to recall that particular coin was rather significant. What do you mean, significant? To be specific, it was especially significant to you, Runo. Significant to me? Oh, you don't mean... Was the coin from last night's wager? The very same, my dear fellow. What's this then? What wager? It's a game of poker. It was a game of poker, a duel between Hurley and Runo. Poker? What? A tricky card game, you mean? As a lawyer, I have the perfect poker face. You'll never be able to tell what I'm thinking, said he. But depriving Miss Narhart of his entire fortune was even easier than finding that missing thoroughbred. It was so infuriating relieving it now, it still makes me grit my teeth. So Iris, I had every intention of paying you back the money I owe you, but you'll have to wait, I'm afraid. Yes, I know. Don't worry. Next month is fine. Let me guess, Odo. Your fortune it was 1 whole shilling, my entire monthly stipend, and I lost all of it. As I handed it over to Mr. Holmes, I gritted my teeth so hard my gums started to bleed. Please, Runo, don't exaggerate. It's a horrible image. What about a lawyer who borrows money from a 10-year-old girl? So that's a horrible image. Why do I feel like my reputation with this couple has just fallen through the floor? Ah, there are few things more invigorating than taking a man for all he's worth. Don't be pleased with yourself, Hurley. It's not as if Runo had ever had a chance of winning. Wait. What do you mean by that? Well, using that special ink I developed, anyone could... Thank you, Iris. That would do. I'm sure this conversation is proving very, very dull for everyone. What's done is done. The game is over now. There's no point crying over spilt milk. Special ink, you say? Well, sir, that sounds like the sort of risky business that's right up my alley. Oh, Rolly, I love your dauntless spirit. You laugh in the face of danger. Come on then, Iris, spill it. What's this special ink about, eh? Ah, well, it's what's sometimes called an invisible ink. All you have to do is write the suit and number on the reverse side of every card. And with the aid of some special glasses, the whole game is laid bare to you. Wait, you were wearing glasses last night, weren't you, Mr. Holmes? You said something along the lines of, my eyesight appears to have suddenly worsened. The moment you fail to question that is odd. No, wait. The moment you failed to question that is odd was the moment I knew I had won the game. Mind games, was it? Trying to throw me off with your eccentric ways. So you're telling me M's could see every cardboard out of ad? What? That's not mind games, that's blatant cheating. My dear fellow, what an accusation. Would you honestly consider me a cheat? Please. I prefer trickster. Whatever you call it, the game doesn't count now. Understand, Mr. Holmes? Dear me. Well, out of respect for the bad grace with which you take defeat, allow me to return your shilling. Did you hear that, Gina? So give it here. Eh? Leave me out of it. Leave me out of this. Yes, that one bob bit was mine from the start, no question. No, sir, that there one bob bit was lifted from this here Bobby's pocket only a few minutes ago. See, I keep saying, come on then, where's the evidence? Huh? The law, right. It's all about evidence. I know my stuff. You see, Mr. Naruto, use a trite excuse in court, and others will parrot it. Only whenever I do say that in court, it isn't as a trite excuse, you know. As I said so, that coin has got my blood, sweat, and tears all over it. That's right, it has. Well, these blood, sweat, and tears are the evidence. Blood, you say? In that case, it's time. For this! Do you think? Well, if there's any trace of blood on that coin, we'll soon know about it. All right, Ginny. Hold very still. What? Ah! Look at that. See there on the coin? It's clearly changed color. In other words, there is blood on this coin. Once again, as I said, sir, that would be my blood, sweat, and tear. Oh wait, I've seen blood turn that color before. Yes, I know whose it is. I know whose coin it is. What? What? The rightful owner of this blood-stained shilling is... Runo! Not me. And from the appearance of the blood, I would say it is quite fresh, left within the last 24 hours. Within the last... in that case... So this is the coin what Holmes had off Odo last night in the poker game. Oh, Runo, do you mean you really did make your gums bleed? Told you, I was so infuriated to lose, I had to grip my teeth as I handed over the money. Jeez, God blimey, you're as hard up as me by the sound of it. I thought you had a proper job. Come on, Gina, just hand it over, would you? The shilling that's rightfully mine. Ah, fine. Alright then, stop your bleeding staring. I finally have it back. It's like a dream come true. I nearly had that one in the bag and all. That's wonderful news, Runo. I'm so happy for you. Now then, as you promised, I'd like my money back, please. The shilling I lent you before. Ugh. You did say that you'd pay it back out of this month's pocket money, didn't you? Oh, yes. Well then, I suppose. My dear fellow, do be kind to your gums. Looks like that shilling was always destined to be taken from you, sir. For some reason, the phrase serves you right is floating around in my head. So Iris, as promised, here is the shilling I owe you. Oh, you're repaying me already? Well, thank you. Next month would have been fine, though. What's it all about anyway? What are you lending Odo money for? Oh yes, well actually, it's because I went to the Lime Street market yesterday to buy herbs. For Runo. Herbs for Odo? Yes, the tea Miss Suzuto left behind is top quality Gyokuro tea, but it's just so bitter. So Nair suggested mixing it with some herbs to make it more palatable. Asked her to buy me some. That's right. We've made a special Japanese herbal tea with the leftover Gyokuro. I'm going to call it Susie's Special Blend. I do hope you'll all try it. Excruciating bitterness clings to the throat. If you can persuade the bright green gloop to leave the cup. Why, it sounds quite delicious. Yeah, right. Okay, most of these cases I can understand where... Oh wait, that's not over yet. So I guess I can open up a page just to see some... Yeah, I'm just gonna... Yeah, let's just check something, but... Never mind, yeah. Well, it would appear that Shilling's brief adventures are now at an end. Adventures? You must agree, my dear fellow, that the coin has made a considerable journey since last night. Let's see. Originally, it was the coin I was supposed to give to Iris to pay her for the herbs. Then, in our pocket duel last night, it passed to you, Mr. Holmes. I gave it to Iris as spending money. Then I dropped it here sometime yesterday. Then my beloved Rolly found it a little while ago and picked it up. Before it was lifted from my pocket by this here diver. I then used my favorite gun to show the blood that was on it, and let slip about this little scam in his card game last night. The annulment of which resulted in the coin returning to the ownership of Miss Naruto, allowing me to pay Iris the money I owed her after all. For the herb she'd bought in order to make Susie's special blend tea. And now, after all that, the coin is resting safely in my pocket. Oh, you motherfucker. Don't tell me you stole it or something, or... Oh, never mind. Yeah, you're right. It was an adventure. What are we supposed to take away from it, eh? This 1 shilling coin belongs to Iris and Iris alone, I think. I cannot fault your observation, Miss Naruto. Well, you know what they say. What goes around comes around. Why do I get the feeling that Iris knew was coming around to her from the very beginning? Ah, priceless, as they say. Well then, my dear fellow, how about this evening we indulge in some bit of tea and a bit of rematch? Yeah, I'll even allow you to stake the coming month's spending in money in advance. I fold. Now, I'm not sure where the fuck in the timeline this is supposed to be. Is it between case 4 and 5? I'm guessing. That's the only thing I can think of. On the Bailey. The final one. And we get Brock Van Ziek's back. Date unknown. The Old Bailey courtroom. This court is now in session for the trial of Mr. Sherlock Holmes. This is a most extraordinary case of murder. Counsels, I assume I may proceed? Yes, my lord. The defense is ready. After your discretion, my lord. At your discretion, my lord. Very well. I hereby call upon the prosecution to introduce the case. The incident in question took place 2 days ago, late last night, when the ground was blanketed with snow. The location of the incident was the residence of the accused, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Indeed, the now famous address number 221 Baker Street, was it? The address may have enjoyed fame once, my lord, but will henceforth enjoy infamy for this grim crime. For this grim crime. Yes, sir. Well put, Goldbrimy. The victim, a certain Madame Rosie, was found asphyxiated on the accused sofa. My word. It was unclear as to whether the victim was actually killed in the defendant's suite or not, After all, when Mr. Holmes left the room for only a brief moment, Madame Rosie somehow vanished herself out of his room completely. Vanished herself, counsel? A victim? Quite true, my lord. There was but one adjoining door between my drawing room and the kitchen. Yet having brewed some tea in the kitchen, I returned to find the room completely empty. There was nobody else present. Ordinarily, my fellow lodger Iris would have been at home. However, on the day in question, she had been invited to a meeting of a scientific society in the city. I'm afraid you have a propensity for exaggerating, sir. You claim the victim vanished herself, but really, it seems to me entirely possible that she chose to leave via the main entrance to your suite. Well, wrong as happens, my lord, the door to the accused's room was locked at the time, from the inside. Very true, Inspector. As such, I can say with such considerable surety that the victim did not leave via my front door. But what about, aha, yes, she could have snuck out through a window. I want to see him do the leg slam. Please, one last time. At least for this game. The windows in the room were not locked, it's true, and the victim had the opportunity. However, there was just snow all around the building outside, and not a patch of it has been disturbed. Would my learned friend care to explain how the victim could have left without leaving a trail? The victim, Madame Rosie, somehow vanished from the scene before she was killed. Ugh. Naturally, I was alarmed by the sudden disappearance of my guest. So I summoned this gentleman, who resides in the attic room above my own, and we took a cab to Scotland Yard. I can confirm that the defendant called for me, and I saw his suite on my way downstairs. And yes, I'm quite sure it was empty, just as Mr. Holmes has said. When we reached the yard, this very detective happened to be there. Ah, well, yes. You see, I was just in my office for a while, having gotten back from some, important business. And then, having explained the situation to the inspector, we traveled back to Baker Street together. At that time, there were no footprints in the snow around the building other than the ones we'd made. Do I take it then, counsel, that you personally witnessed the scene where the incident took place? No, my lord. I went straight up to bed in my own room in the attic. Inspector Gregson, however, was met with a most blood-curdling sight. On Mr. Holmes's sofa, the vanished Madame Rosie, motionless. So the victim was already dead when you discovered her, Inspector? No, my lord, not dead, but not far off it. She mustered all her remaining strength to say these dire words. That rotter, Sherlock Holmes will be the death of me. Ah, yes, I overheard that remark at the time, too, delivered in a rasping voice, full of malice. No. Those words indeed proved to be her last. The victim expired moments later, there on the sofa. The cause of death was identified as damage to the respiratory tract as a result of strangulation. Pray, does the accused dare to contest the inspector's account? Certainly not. In fact, the inspector has done an unusually fine job of summarizing the salient points. Holmes will be the death of me. Damning departing words indeed. In her final moments, the victim named her killer. You, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. But the defendant had no reason to take the victim's life. Perhaps you could tell the court, Mr. Holmes, who exactly this Madame Rosie was. Ah, yes, of course. But I never mentioned her to you. I'd extended an invitation to her that evening, though she is loquacious in the extreme. The most trivial of matters quickly becomes a quarrel. I was only too pleased to leave her presence to make tea. Great. It would appear, then, that the accused did in fact have a motive for silencing his heuristic guest permanently. Oh, there's a fucking spider here, hang on. Putting that tenuous motive aside, what about the other mystery surrounding the case? I'm inclined to agree with the defense. There remain a number of inscrutable details. The victim's alleged appearance and subsequent reappearance, leaving no trail of footprints, for example. That's right, the crime described by the prosecution could never have happened. Yet the victim named the accused in her dying breath. It seems to me that my learned friend has overlooked a significant detail here. Nonsense. What have I overlooked? The man in the dock, the so-called great detective, all too frequently makes the following bold claim. There is no crime beyond the realms of possibility, no mystery beyond my powers of reasoning. So, Mr. Holmes, you will have no difficulty in explaining how the crime thus described could have taken place. Therefore, I propose a toast to the great detective upholding his name. I found the fucker again. Ah. Fucking killed it. There we go. Ugh. But of course, were I to put my mind to the matter, the crime would immediately appear to all present to be entirely feasible. Please, Mr. Holmes, whose side are you on? All you need to say is no. Even I can't think of a way that a crime like that could have been committed. Let the accused's admission be noted by the court. Though the crime may appear impossible to us mortals of inferior mental capacity, this man alone claims to know exactly how it was done. Now hold on, it's a very fragile argument. Thank you, counsels. I believe I've heard more than enough to proceed to my adjudication. The accused great detective did, in some inscrutable manner, willfully murder the victim, Madame Rosie. Therefore, I find the defendant guilty. That this man be taken from this courtroom and, in some equally inscrutable matter, be sanctioned for his crimes. The court is adjourned. My lord, please. The truth about the mystery surrounding this case are known to another besides the great detective. What's this? Upon my word, Miss Naruto, you're coming along wonderfully. You've deduced a fundamental truth about this case, I believe. Which would be, detective, that the truth of this case is known only to the true culprit, obviously. Is that not so, Gregson? Eh? What? Well, I suppose, yes. Do you know what I mean? Are you suggesting, Mr. Holmes, that you have an idea as to what actually happened that night? An idea? My dear fellow. I could explain the entire situation from start to finish without a single detail omitted. It seems the detective has failed to grasp the situation. Pray, Mr. Reaper, which of us has truly failed to grasp the situation, I wonder? Then answer me this. You claim that prior to the incident, the victim suddenly vanished without a trace from your room. If so, how exactly did Madame Rosie disappear? Why, naturally, via the window. It was ajar, after all. But that can't be. The room has a whole story above street level, and anyway, no prints were found in the snow. There are any number of ways one could avoid leaving tracks in the snow, surely. Such as flying, for instance. A fatuous notion. And to where do you propose the victim flew, Mr. Holmes? Is it not entirely the plane? To the culprit's abode, of course. For having left my suite, that is clearly where Madame Rosie was murdered. Take a moment to consider the cruel irony, if you will. By her own volition, she flew directly to her death. Do you forget, detective? The victim's corpse was discovered on your sofa. No doubt because her killer carried her back there. But what about the lack of footprints in the snow again, then? There just weren't any. Other than our own, from when we returned home ourselves. If by our footprints you refer to your own and mine, you are quite right, but there were those of another. On the night in question, there was one other person who could have conveyed the victim to my sofa. What? Good gracious, to whom do you refer, sir? A man whose somewhat unavailing presence at the scene of the crime would be questioned by no one. Unavailing? Ah, you don't mean... Indeed I do. A man who was hastened to the scene directly upon learning of the incident at Scotland Yard. Namely... you, Inspector Gregson. Eh? When you arrived at my address on Baker Street, you were carrying the half-dead Madame Rosie with you. You waited for a suitable opportunity, and then laid the victim on my sofa. He did what? But we were with the inspector when we arrived. How could he possibly have been carrying the victim? We would have noticed. My dear fellow, a most obvious answer presents itself, does it not? The inspector is rarely, if ever, without his overcoat. The victim was simply conveyed in one of its many pockets. What the I fail to see what makes this detective great, but I can say one thing with great certainty. A human body cannot fit into the pocket of an overcoat. I believe you may all have fallen foul of a rather significant misapprehension. What? Madame Rosie was not a human. I beg your pardon? Mr. Holmes? Yes, Miss Narda. Something troubles you, perhaps? Whatever gives you that idea. Exactly what sort of creature was Madame Rosie? Is it not apparent already? A parakeet, of course. Huh? A most self-conceited specimen, in fact. Parakeet? She was an incessant talker, I must say. Her manner was quite intolerable at times. Want to turn every conversation to a quarrel. I thought to strangle the creature on more than one occasion. You had a quarrel with a parakeet. But of course, why else would she have chosen to fly from my window so uncordially that evening? To the abode of the inspector here beside me, no less. Inspector Gregson's abode? But why? Because that was the parakeet's home, naturally. What are you... The inspector was called away from town for some days, so it was arranged that I would look after the bird. It would appear that she was overcome with a sudden yearning for her keeper, thus prompting her flight from my comfortable suite to the inspector's office at Scotland Yard. Well, Gregson, I believe it's high time you explained. Give us your account of what happened that night, sparing no details, of course. Inspector Gregson? It was an accident. What the fuck is happening? What the fuck is this? I got back from being away that evening, you see, God blimey. I just walked through the door of my office. Never imagined Madame Rosie would be on her way back to the yard as well. I slammed the door shut behind me, just as she was trying to fly through it. So Madame Rosie... She got a sandwich between the door and the frame and fell to the... Never to move again, because of me. Well, I never. I had to do something, and just when I was trying to think of a plan, you fellas arrived talking about some incident at Baker Street. Ah, I tied Madame Rosie in a hurry, so I stuffed her in my coat pocket and got into the cab with the pair of you. What could possibly have motivated you to behave in such a manner, Inspector? Lord Strongheart, sir. What? Lord Strongheart? Please tell me I didn't hear that right. It was the Lord Chief Justice who asked me to look after the bird in the first place. She'd been living with the pigeons at the Supreme Court until then. But apparently the other birds had started to pick on her. But for the past 6 months or so, I've been caring for her in my office at the yard. I see. If anything happened to that bird, just imagine. No pay, no time off for the rest of my career. You mark my words, that's what's gonna happen. That's why, well... But the victim's dying words, Inspector. Court heard earlier that Madame Rosie spoke the name of her assailant on her deathbed. That rotter, Holmes, will be the death of me. Indeed she did. Quite uncalled for, wouldn't you agree? But those words are your true feelings, are they not, Inspector? Ugh. Clearly you speak of me often at your office at the yard, in this disparaging manner. A manner that the merry parakeet took much delight in mimicking. Well, come on. I mean, have you read this month's edition of Randst Magazine, eh? I'm... Sorry. This is all absolutely true. What the fuck is this? Something wrong, Lord Van Zieks? No. Nothing. Look how fucking tall he is. Holy shit. He's actually like 6'4", 6'5", I think, yeah? They actually gave an actual accurate height of his, but he's, I think, pretty sure, yeah, 6'4", or like something like that. I almost drifted off for a moment there. It's hard not to drift off when you've been kept waiting 3 hours already. I wonder if we'll manage to meet with Lord Strongheart at all today. We may have to deliver the report on the Windy Bank case that he asked for on another day. Tell me, Inspector, what became of that bird? Ah, Madame Rosie, you mean? She had a narrow escape, but she's still alive. I delivered her back here not long ago, actually, on Lord Strongheart's orders. He's open to pigeons will accept her now, to go blimey. It was something of a shock to hear that she'd been crushed in the doorway of your office. Especially as we were all under the misapprehension that Madame Rosie was a person. Sorry about that. It was Lord Strongheart's demand that... Ah, good, you're here. I apologize for my tardiness. I'm exactly 3 hours, 24 minutes, and 57 seconds late. Oh, no, my lord. No. Please don't trouble yourself. Nothing gives us greater pleasure than standing here doing nothing for hours on end. Pardoning. So, let us hear it then. Your report. The Windy Bank trial is concluded, but this is far from over. It seems that dark Far Eastern lawyer and I have some shared destiny. We will meet again. Of that I have no doubt. Did you see how to find Zeeks? Did you? Madame Rosie went flying off among the pigeons there, happy as Larry she was. Really, Inspector? You must be relieved. What the fuck was that? What the fuck was these things? Oh my god. That's fucking hilarious. I love these already. I love these, man. Asinine attorney cases are also pretty hilarious too. These are pretty good. Mainly because the characters are hilarious. Mainly Holmes. Also, surprisingly Asogi. The first one is fucking amazing. These are all good. I'm gonna give a ranking quick about which one's the best. This is the best one. Second best one. Actually, I don't know. Can't really think of a rankings for these, but this one's definitely the best of the one. Best of them. Let me see if you're in the accolades. Yeah, now I have every single accolade in this game because I finally decided to check out the Escapades. So, yeah, that's it for this series. A fun bonus episode, a long bonus episode, but fun nonetheless to check out these Escapades. You know, I got to do something blind, and the next playthrough, in the next Let's Play, it is going to be something blind as well. Sort of, not really. I kind of know what I'm doing, sort of, with it, but I haven't played it myself. And of course, another one is sort of a blind playthrough as well, for the Lost Sanity. So I gave my hint, my Lost Sanity hint. I can't really give a hint. Actually, no, I will give a hint. It's a Nuzlocke, so that's coming back. So in any case, I hope you all enjoyed this Let's Play, and I'll see you eventually for the Great Ace Attorney 2. Ta-ta, take care, my dear fellows.